Hello, everyone, and welcome to Candlelight. We're going to be running this game on the Gauntlet calendar. My name is Mike, and I'll be your GM. A little bit about myself. I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for a long time. This is probably my this is my 40th year. I started in 1981 when I was but a wee lad. I played a lot of D&D through the 80s, through the 90s. I played a lot of GURPS, a lot of Champions. In the aughts, I went back to D&D again, played a lot of D&D, played a lot of Pathfinder, a few other games scattered in there. In 2015, I joined my first indie role-playing game where I played Dungeon World for a while, and that kind of broke my brain in a good way. And that year, I kind of jumped into the deep end of the indie game pool, and that's mostly what I'm playing these days. Still have a toe in the Pathfinder community. I still play a fair amount of OSR stuff, but mostly I like the narrative-focused story games. I joined the Gauntlet in 2018. Started playing that year. I started GMing fairly regularly on the Gauntlet last year. Back in the past year, I've GM'd way more than I've played on the Gauntlet, and I've just found the Gauntlet to be a fantastic role-playing gaming community. Okay, enough of me. Let's go around and let our players introduce yourselves. Let's go clockwise as I have you on my gallery view. So, Leah, would you say a few words about yourself?
Hi, I'm Leah. I think I've been a member of the Gauntlet for 2 years-ish. The biggest game I've gotten to play has been a 1 1/3 year campaign of Masks, and I'm really hoping that as things loosen up, that we'll get to do in-person games and campaigns once again. Though now I have a new game I get to play, which is Keep My Toddler from Eating the Dice.
Awesome, thank you. Elizabeth, would you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Elizabeth, and I joined the Gauntlet in early winter to 2020. And the reason I joined the Gauntlet was after many years break from role-playing games, I discovered Brindlewood Bay. I was able to play one game of it, one session of it off the Gauntlet. I love the game so much, the idea of the game so much. It took me a year and a lockdown to search for a group that plays Brindlewood Bay, and that led me to the Gauntlet. And I've been playing games with Gauntlet members for about 6 months now, including a 3-month run of Brindlewood Bay.
Awesome. I know Elizabeth was in a short play test of a carved from Brindlewood Bay that I'm working on. That's like a 1940s hard-boiled detective game. Haven't run it. I haven't run it since, but because it's still working on a few things. But anyway.
Well, it was great fun, and I enjoyed stretching the rules a bit as well.
Well, that's definitely informing the next iteration.
Good.
Cool. Jim, would you introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, I'm Jim Crocker. I generally use he, him pronouns, but if you're using they, them more generically, that is totally fine with me too. That's not going to bother me. I run and play a whole lot of games on the Gauntlet. I'm kind of taking a little bit of a break. I mean, kind of pulled back on the throttle a little bit over the last several months as we kind of all figure out what's going on with our lives here, reopening from COVID and all that kind of stuff. But I'm one of the people that's responsible for setting up the Gauntlet Comics, shared superhero universe, and kind of my whole thing is that I'm the guy on the Gauntlet that takes whatever indie game has been designed for something else and adds superheroes to it and makes it into a superhero game. So I'm sure at some point I'll find some way to turn this thing into, Candlelight into some kind of Green Lantern thing or something. I don't know, something like that. But right now I'm also working on a drift of Brindlewood Bay / The Between. Since The Between came out, it's now way more of a drift of The Between, just because of all the things you can do with that, called X Capes, which is a game about retired superheroes who can't seem to stay retired, in the vein of like Powers or Astro City Tarnished Angel, stuff like that. And so I've been kind of just in the sort of early alpha stage of playtesting that, having a lot of fun with that, and looking forward to getting that going again. I am going to also endorse, as Leah did, getting together to play face-to-face, because I'm going to be playing with Leah tomorrow. We both live in New Jersey, and this is going to be one of my very first getting together to game with people sessions. So I'm immensely looking forward to that. And I'm hoping that our game this evening doesn't prove to be, like overload or anything like that, so that she's still welcoming me tomorrow when we show up there. But I
am pumped.
So yes, I'm very excited about it. So I mean, and Mike, you're several hours away, but but like weekend trip distance, something like that. So I mean, maybe make that happen at some point.
Yeah, when you moved out of Tarrytown, it made it a little less convenient for me to swing by your place. But
but you can still, whatever, come straight down there. And Elizabeth, I have not had the chance to play with you yet, so I'm very excited to play with you. I've seen your name around the Slack and stuff like that, and I know that you were very excited about getting to play Brindlewood Bay. So I'm looking forward to playing this game with you here. So if you're interested in me yammering about games, which is basically all I use social media for, and like the occasional complaint about usurious electric bills being the other thing that I will occasionally put up there. But I'm on Facebook as Jim Likes Games Crocker, Crocker, and I'm on Twitter at Jim Likes Games, just like it sounds, spelled just like it sounds. So we're looking forward to this evening, especially because we're gonna like reverse engineer and dissect my thing I wrote for Trophy.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. I'm really glad to have y'all here. I know I've played a lot with Jim before. I know I've played with Elizabeth before. Leah, I think we might have played something at some point in the past. I'm not entirely sure, but I think we did. Anyway, so Candlelight. Let's do a cats discussion. It's kind of like make sure we're all on the same page as we start here. So the actually let me just pull up something here, a screen I accidentally closed. Because I had that written down and I don't have it in front of me. And rather than just yammer, here we are. So Candlelight is a game where we're dead. The player characters are dead. You are playing ghosts. This is a game where the PCs are the spirits of recently slain treasure hunters that are trying to escape becoming terrors of the forest that did them in. The aim of the story is to tell it's to tell a kind of a creepy, tense story about trapped spirits seeking an afterlife. And this is a story that is this is a horror story, but there is definitely hope is an underlying theme. Whether the hope is realized or dashed, we're going to play to find out. The tone of this game is, it's going to be tragic. It's going to be elegiac. There's going to be themes of regret. There's going to be themes of woulda, coulda, shoulda done that differently. Perhaps if I had, I wouldn't be dead. But at the same time, again, there's always possible hope in this game. And the subject matter is pretty much what we said. This is a tragic story about spirits of the dead trying to leave the forest where they died. Some of the content warnings will be, clearly death. There will be flashbacks of things that there will be. The game has a flashback mechanic where we may go back and see things that happened when you were still alive and the things that did not go so well back then. So yeah, there's the scenario also takes place this scenario that we're running takes place in a swamp. So hence my Okefenokee swamp background here. So there may be some creepy crawlies. There may be themes of, there may be themes of drowning. There may be themes of being stuck in the mire. That's what comes to mind. Any questions about any questions about Kat's discussion? Okay. If you're all on the character sheet, oh, hold on. Just notice a glaring error in the character sheet. There we are. Excuse me. Yeah, if you are all on the character keeper, if you could click over to the safety and resources tab, we're gonna have a little talk about emotional safety while we play role-playing games. So safety tools are a means of, well, backing up. So when we play role-playing games, we're telling stories, we're getting into character, and we're opening up ourselves up emotionally to tell interesting stories. The thing is, we're telling we're a bunch of strangers or near strangers that are getting together to play a game over the internet, and each of us is more important than this game that we're playing. So role-playing games are inherently not safe. I have a set of life experiences that are very different from your set of life experiences, and what may be perfectly fine for me to discuss might not be so okay for you. So we're going to be playing with 3 safety tools, which won't eliminate the danger, but will hopefully mitigate it and mitigate things ahead of time, and will also give us tools that if we do step on a landmine, it'll hopefully be able to correct us and get us back on track. So we're going to be playing with 3 safety tools. The first one I want to talk about is Open Door. Open Door is a safety tool that deals with our personal physical comfort. And that means and all of us, we're all free to come and go from this game as we please. Anyone can call a break at any time. Anyone can step away from the game for any reason and step back when you're good and ready. If we get into this game and you decide this game is just not for you, it is absolutely fine to like walk away and say, hey, hey folks, have fun. This game ain't for me. Have a good rest of the night. 100% okay to do that. Not every game is for everybody, and sometimes the game description doesn't really match how it actually plays when the dice hit the table. I did talk about breaks. I'm probably going to call this session's scheduled to go 3 hours. I like to call a break kind of at the top of every hour. I usually go a 5-minute break at the 1 hour mark, 10-minute break at the 2 hour mark, and then another 5-minute break. Well, I'm sorry, that would be for a 4 hour session. And then the 3rd hour would be end of the game. Any questions about Open Door? Okay. The second tool that I want to talk about is called Lines and Veils. This is a proactive tool that allows us to take topics that we may find problematic, bring them forward to make sure we're all on the same page, so that we all try to avoid stepping on them. So a line, if a subject matter is lined, that means it's not going to happen in the game. I won't introduce it. You as a player won't introduce it. If the subject was if I'm running a pre-printed module, which I kind of am, if that was going to be in there, I'll take a few minutes to like try to write around it. So if something's lined, it's just not going to happen. A veil is a little lesser than that. We can acknowledge that a veil, if a subject is veiled, it means we may acknowledge that it happened in the game. We may see signs that it could have happened. We may hear stories that it may have happened to someone else, but it's not going to happen on camera, and it's not going to happen to one of the player characters. We'll either cut away, we'll fast forward, we'll fade to black, or just, do a passing reference. We won't dwell on it. So I've put on the Safety and Resources tab a number of items that people frequently have some level of objection to. And if you want to take a few minutes to click whether you wish to line or veil something. If something is already veiled and you wish to upgrade that to a line, we will upgrade it to a line. I see someone has done some color coding there, which is awesome. I'm going to pause the recording and give everyone a couple of minutes to figure this out. And if anyone wants to ask questions while we're not being recorded, that would be cool. So I am pausing it now. Okay, we've recorded our lines and veils, and I have them on a stick note floating on the top of my screen so I don't lose sight of them. The third and final safety tool I want to talk about is a reactive safety tool. It's called the X card. So the X card, we use the X card when our other safety tools didn't prevent us from stumbling into something that we may or may not have known we shouldn't have gone to. If anything in the game makes you uncomfortable in any way, you can invoke the X card. That's going to pause the game. That's going to we'll pause the game. We'll have a little discussion to figure out what it is that we need to change, and what we can do about it. Absolutely 100% okay to use it. It's not a it's not a director slamming cut and like making it's it's, hey, we need to make a change. Let's make a change. It can be something as it can be interplayer. It can be something that's interplayer. You don't like the way someone is addressing you, or another player is consistently getting your name wrong. X card, we'll talk about that. If someone is talking over you, X card, we'll talk about that. It could be something in game. It could be something dumb, like I've introduced an NPC that is the name of, that's the name of an X that you absolutely can't stand. That's fine. The character doesn't really exist. We'll change their name. Or if it is something that we perhaps should have lined or veiled earlier, and you either didn't think about it or didn't realize it was an issue until it happened, we can go back. We can put it on. We'll take it out. We'll add it to the lines and veils. We'll move on. In our enthusiasm in playing the game, if we take our eyes off of the lines and veils and accidentally introduce something that we should not have, please someone else immediately X card and we'll take it out. I try my very best to treat these as sacrosanct, but every once in a while we mess up. To invoke the X card, the dice roller we're using has an X card button. You can click that. You can say X card. We're all on video, so if you want to make an X gesture, that'll indicate that it's we need to pause and have a little chat, and then we'll move on. Any questions about the X card? One other thing One other thing I do like to mention, it isn't exactly a safety tool, is if something happens on my end, such that I either freeze, I lose the connection, and since I'm the host, if I lose connection to the internet, the meeting drops, or I look, or I look concerned off camera, take my headset off and step off camera, and if I don't come back for 10 minutes, assume something has happened and that the game is over, and take the rest of your evening back. I'll hopefully be able to circle around with you when I can. I've had things like, whether it's something like the cat knocks over a vase and I need to clean up a whole bunch of broken glass, or this actually happened once in the midst of a game. Somebody up on the corner drove their SUV into a telephone pole, and my neighborhood didn't have power for 3 hours. Hopefully it won't happen, but if I'm gone for 10 minutes and I don't come back, assume the game is over and take the rest of your evening back. This concludes our safety discussion. Are there any questions? Fantastic. So if you want to click over to the character tab on our character keepers, let's won't quite get into character generation, but we'll let's talk a little bit about the structure of the game. So Candlelight is a rooted in trophy game. If you've played Trophy or read Trophy before, some of the rules will seem very familiar. It's actually pretty close to Trophy Dark. Some things are changed a little. Some things have slightly different terminologies, but it's pretty close to Trophy Dark. I know we've got a couple of people here that haven't played it before, so this will be new to them. So your characters in this game are kind of paper thin. Well, in this case, kind of literally, because you're a ghost. But your character doesn't have a lot in terms of stats. So basically, your character. So you only have 2 stats that you're going to need to keep track of. Your stats are despair and hope, and these range from 1 to 6. These range from 1 to 6, or in the case of hope, 0 to 6, because you start with no hope. When either despair or hope reaches 6, your character is basically out of the game. So if your hope reaches 6, that means you have seen the light, you've been drawn to the light, you've become one with the light, and you transcend and have moved on to the afterlife. So that can happen before we get to the end game. If your despair reaches 6, that means you have succumbed to the terror of the forest, and the forest has claimed you as a trophy, and you are going to be forever haunting this place. It's possible to get to the end game without maxing out despair or hope, in which case we'll have some other kind of epilogue to figure out like what you do as a spirit. So yes, despair and hope, those are the only stats you need to track of. You need to keep track of. And the game mechanics will tell us when to increase or decrease these scores. Your other stats are much more descriptive. Your character has a doom, which is basically your memories of what killed you. Your character has 3 other doom matches, for those who've played Trophy, doom matches to your background in Trophy. Your character has 3 memories. Each of the memories fall into one of 3 categories. You have a memory of a relationship, you have a memory of an identity, and you have a memory of a role. And so your doom and each of your memories will tell you that you are skilled at something. These are deliberately sketched. These are deliberately painted in broad strokes. If you can make an argument that your skill will help you, then you will get an extra die to your die pool when dice hit the table. And as long as you make a reasonable argument that it would help you, it's going to help you. The final thing that you have is called a drive, and that is your motivation. That is why you're doing the things you're doing. And in this case, it is, your drive as a spirit. What do you want to do in the afterlife? What is your goal to accomplish? There's 12 to pick from. If you don't like those and you want to come up with something similar, that's also absolutely fine. We'll just write that in. So if you want to take a few minutes to each pick one of these and look through the pick lists, see what looks good to you. It might, and because this is a character keeper, we can all see each other's choices. It might be better if people try not to duplicate what the other characters are doing, just to give the group a little more flexibility. But that's entirely up to you. That's certainly not a requirement, merely a suggestion.
Not a D&D party. That's, yeah.
We don't need the fighter and the healer. We don't need the fighter, the healer, the magic user, and the thief. And since there's only 3 of us, I'm going to hide the extraneous column.
Leah, what are you interested in? There we go. All right. Got it.
Well, I'm happy with a bunch. I kind of picked one where I'm not exactly sure what I'll do with it. So.
Sure. Yep. Nope. That's cool.
Once we've picked those, I'll tell you about dirges.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, for the sake of our listeners, I'm going to pause. Well, maybe I won't pause the recording if there's. I'll do a quick edit, and if there's like long pauses, I'll just cut them out. That way, if people want to, that way we can record the crosstalk and chatter if.
Sure.
Okay, people have mostly made their choices, and we'll introduce our characters in a moment. I want to talk about dirges. Dirges map to what are called rituals in Trophy. They're basically they're like magical spells. They're skinned here to mean dirges are like a supernatural. Dirges are like a supernatural effect that you as a spirit can do. You don't know how you can do it. You don't know why. You can think of it as a spell. It's just that as when you intone a dirge to create a supernatural effect in the world, it's risky. So there's a chance that you are spirit. You are disembodied spirits. You have just a little flicker of essence left in you. When your despair hits 6, that essence fades away, and you become trapped as a ghost. When you intone a dirge, you are risking that spark. So it may be successful, it may not be successful, and it could take some of your essence away from you. It could be successful and still take some of that essence away from you. So using them, so you can think of them as spells, basically. It's just that using them, they don't always work. And even when they do work, they don't always work the way you expect them to. And using them is dangerous. You have one dirge for every point of despair that you have. As your despair increases, you know how to do another dirge. If for whatever reason, and it's possible, your despair decreases, you lose access to a dirge. You kind of forget how to do it, and you can pick which one. You can pick which one you don't want to use. So everyone should choose one dirge because everyone is starting out at 1 despair. And again, they are deliberately vague. When you wish to use one, we'll define it. We'll define it in play. Those of you who have played Trophy before, most of them are pretty much just straight up rituals from Trophy. There's a few that are a little different. Oh, and by the way, all of these options, they are the ones from the book. They are the ones from the Candlelight game. For those who wish to continue to play Candlelight, if you wanted to like take a Trophy Dark character and just take their skills, take their background and skills and use those as your skills from your memories, you can totally do that. You can pull in spells from Trophy Dark, but I'm just using the ones from the book here. So yeah, pretty much just pick one that appeals. While you're doing that, the other line on your character sheet is called manifestations. Manifestations are they map to conditions in Trophy. Whenever your hope or your despair changes, it has some kind of tangible effect on you that maybe the viewers at home may see. So whenever your despair goes up or your hope goes up, tell us how that manifests. It doesn't always have to be, but if it's interesting, we can do that. Looks like folks have made their selections. Excellent. I always find like picking a name to be one of the hardest things. So if you want to noodle on that, we can figure that out before we actually start play. I do want to talk a little bit about the rules of the game. I'm going to go over it really quickly. So this game is a conversation. While we're playing, we're going to be constantly switching between making decisions from the perspective of your characters, and also we're going to be making decisions from the perspective of the players as to what would be the most interesting thing to happen in the game. So there's going to be this constant like back and forth. As the GM, the way I'm going to try to signal that is when we're having an out of character discussion, I'll refer to you as your real name. If you're making a decision from the perspective of your character, I'll pose the question to you as your character name. Once you've picked character names, I'm going to ask you to maybe update your name on the Zoom window just so that I can remember which character goes with which person. But we'll get to that. So this game only uses 6-sided dice, and it uses 6-sided dice of 2 different colors, referred to as light dice and dark dice. In general, for most rolls, there's different kinds of rolls. The one we're going to be dealing with most is called the risk roll, and this works exactly the same as in Trophy. So if you are doing something risky and failure has consequences, tell us what you wish to accomplish, and the other players in the GM will come up with, what are the stakes? Basically, what's the worst that can happen if it doesn't go so well? Once we've settled on the stakes, you can choose whether or not to go through with the roll. If you decide to push on, you're gonna gather a dice pool. You're gonna gather a bunch of 6-sided dice. We're gonna throw them, and we're only gonna be looking at the single die that has the highest number on it. Color of the die matters. So when you do a risk roll, you take a light die if you have memories that are related. So if you have a memory and you think it'll be helpful, tell us why, and you get a light die. You can take a second light die if you make a desperate prayer. I'll get to that in a minute. If you are willing to risk your fading light to succeed, you may choose to add a dark die, or if the GM determines that what you are doing is inherently risky, the GM may inform you that you must include a dark die. You always must include a dark die if you're making a risk roll to intone a dirge or to have a flashback of your life. So then you roll the dice and you look at the highest number rolled. So if the highest number is a 6, you succeed. You tell us how. Also, when you succeed, increase your hope by 1 on a 6. If the highest number die is a 4 or a 5, you succeed, but there's a complication. The GM will describe the complication, and then you tell us how you overcome that complication, or you tell us how you succeed despite that complication. If your high roll is a 1, 2, or 3, things didn't go so well. What you wanted doesn't come to pass, and your situation is going to get worse. The other thing we need to do when you are including a dark die is every time you include a dark die in your roll, and a dark die is the highest die, or it is tied for highest with a light die. Then we have what is called a reckoning. When you face a reckoning, look at the dark die and compare that to your current despair score. And if the number on the dark die is greater than your current despair, your despair goes up by 1. So that means the more dark dice you have in a roll, the more dice you have in your risk roll, the greater your chances of success. The more dark dice you have in the roll, yes, you have a greater chance of success, but you also have a greater chance of your despair increasing. On a risk roll, if you don't like the result and the highest die was not a dark die, you can choose to add another dark die and re-roll. Again, it increases your odds of success, but it also increases your chances of your despair increasing. That's the risk roll. A risk roll is whenever you intone a dirge, that's going to also be a risk roll that must include a dark die. If you wish to have a flashback of your past life, that is also something we can do. And that's basically a risk roll. Little different, it's basically a risk roll. I threw a lot of information at you. It's going to make more sense once we actually come to play, but that's basic. So bottom line is you're going to put together a dice pool that will consist of light and or dark dice. You roll, you look for the highest number. That determines how success and how well you succeed. But if the dark die comes up, that can increase your despair. If things just happen that are really, really bad, that could just force a straight up reckoning, even outside of a risk roll. In which case I'll call for a reckoning, which is basically you roll a dark die and you compare it to your current despair. And on a reckoning, on a reckoning, if you roll lower on just a straight reckoning roll, if you roll lower than your current despair, your hope goes up. If you roll greater than your current despair, your despair goes up. If you roll your despair exactly, according to the rules as written, nothing happens. That may be an oversight. We'll see how it plays out. Desperate prayers. This maps to what's called this maps to a devil's bargain in the original version of Trophy. And if you've ever played Blades in the Dark, it's basically the same as a devil's bargain from Blades in the Dark. As in life, if you need assistance, you can call out for help from the gods. Thing is, you're now a spirit. You're never quite sure who or what is going to answer your call for aid. So when you make a desperate prayer, the other players will offer suggestions as to what entity has answered your prayer and what cost they are demanding in assistance for their aid. You can choose to accept their aid or not. If you accept their aid, you must pay the consequence, but you get an extra light die for your risk roll. So basically, other players will offer something, and it is up to you to pick which one you like. And or if you don't like any of them, you don't have to accept their aid, and you don't have to accept their aid, but you don't get the extra die roll. The other thing about desperate prayers that's kind of cool is this gives all of the other players a certain degree of narrative control over the story, because the desperate prayers will often introduce new elements into our story that weren't in what I'm playing, and didn't come out of the GM's mind. So that's one cool thing about Trophy, is that we're all crafting this story together. It's very, very collaborative. And finally, there's a haunt roll, and that is you can attempt to haunt a place by infusing it with your despair. You roll a light die, and if you roll equal to or below your despair, you infuse some of your despair into the world. And so you tell us what this haunting will look like, and why this is helping you. And that's basically the only way that you can lower your despair is through haunting. That maps for Trophy players, that maps to the reduction roll in Trophy Dark. That is the rules in a nutshell. I threw a ton of information at you. It's on this tab. We'll all refer to them when they actually happen. Also on this tab is the player agenda, and also the GM principles, if you want to take a look at that, just to give a sense of where we're trying to go with this. That is character gen. That is going over the rules. If there are no questions, I think I'll call a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll start playing. Any questions before we break? Awesome. I'm going to pause recording and we'll be back in 5. And we're back after the GM had an issue with the online dice roller. Okay. So, do people have ideas for the name for their characters' names?
Yep, I put in a name for one of the generators, and it's Zephyr.
Fantastic.
He, him.
Okay, so I guess we can. So if people are still thinking about their names, that is cool. What I think I'll do is I'll. So the way Candlelight is structured is, first of all, there's a scene called The Wake. It's basically a prologue where I provide just like a brief vignette of sorts of things that happened to your characters while they were still alive. So it's basically, it's the way I'm going to proceed. The way I'm going to do this is, it's, if you can imagine, like there's a camera that's gliding through, gliding through a few scenes, and I'll kind of describe that, and we'll end with your characters dead, and we'll start there. So one other thing is, I know I called this the Mossy Tomb. I think I'm changing the name because Jim actually had an even cooler name. I'm going to call it the Gloaming Mire, which is the name of the forest which is the name of the swamp that the Flocculent Cathedral was found in. So let us begin our story. Deep in Caldor Forest burbles the Gloaming Mire, a mangrove-dense fen that holds the long-lost Flocculent Cathedral. How many souls have been lost to this place? At the edge of the swamp, through a maze of massive trees, we briefly see an encampment of ragged and filthy men-at-arms, half drunk on homemade mead. They each bear once fine weapons now rusted and wear mismatched bits of regalia. As they drink, their eyes always look deeper into the swamp. Following the gaze of these soldiers, we glide deeper in, where the trees die back, into an open marshy mire, choked with brambles and buzzing with thick swarms of insects. A long ridge rises in the distance, dotted with standing stones and statues. We linger on an abandoned campsite, its coals cold and damp. The ridge descends back into mangroves through a gateway arch of massive antlers caked with green moss. As the gloom deepens, we pause and look behind us to catch a glimpse of an impossibly massive stag. Its fur green, staring unnervingly at unintelligible voices whisper and distant lights flicker, daring us to leave the path. And before us now stands a great grove of massive, tightly packed trees, their branches interwoven and teeming with lush, damp moss. This is the cathedral so many seek, yet so few return from. Small gaps allow light and air to enter, and we pass through. Within is a massive altar of iron before a still pond. Algae-covered candelabras and moss-covered stone pews surround it, and lifeless bodies lie within. None have been here for long. And so we begin our tale. So this game is, so as I said before, this game is a conversation. So the adventure the adventure is little more than an outline. That piece of box text that I wrote and read to you is pretty much the only one such thing I'm going to be using. I've got a few prompts here. I've got a few questions that I'll be posing to you, and these questions are kind of like, basically, they're going to be story prompts to try to prompt us to tell this tale of, you know, what happened then and what will happen now, and how will your spirits escape this forest, this enchanted forest that didn't want you in and now doesn't want you to leave. So we are within this cathedral. Signs of a struggle and violent endings mark this place. In time, the cathedral will absorb the signs of strife and cover them over with new growth. I'm going to ask each of you, what was your final act in this place, and how did you die? Let's go in. Let's go in character keeper order. No, okay, that is fine. Let's go in reverse character keeper order. Leah, would you like to tell us what was your final act in this place?
Well, so I'm drawing on my doom, which is exposed. So I think kind of what we see around me are, you know, what look like kind of withered sticks and maybe a little yarn. But in the moment, or as it should have been, you know, this was a way of hiding myself, you know, as things all fell apart, you know, as companions died, you know, it was a way of building a little, you know, almost not quite a pocket dimension. I wasn't that good, right? But just if a pocket dimension cleaves you off from the world as it is, this just puts you like slightly out of joint, a little hard to reach. And it should have worked. One of you stole one of the sticks. Does that work for you guys? Just to hit something with when I needed it.
That's very in tune with Trophy. I love it. I'll also ask one follow-up question, and that is, in what form do you now find yourself? You are a spirit, but what does that look like? How does if you can imagine this were a movie or a TV show, what do the viewers at home see?
Well, let me check if this is kind of matching the range of aesthetics people are going for. So instead of, you know, a ghostly version of my living self, you know, I'm picturing something that kind of parallels where I died. So it's more like a little dollar mannequin, but, you know, human sized, right? You know, but similarly woven of trees with thread and, you know, a little bit of moss already growing. Still a little translucent. It's almost like the ghost of a mannequin, but, you know, it'll have kind of varying levels of detail, almost in an animation style. So, you know, when my eyebrows are important, they're there, you know, they get bigger when I'm upset. But at my crudest, I'm basically a child's doll of bound sticks.
That's fantastic. I love it. Jim, I'm going to pose to you the same questions. What was your final act in this place, and how did you die? I'd recommend that, and Leah hopped on this. I meant to mention that as well. It would be, you know, this is where like, you know, using your doom prompt would probably be helpful.
Yeah, so like after struggling, so because I happen to know the layout of the cathedral, I know that one of the ways in is to climb the roof and come down through the bell tower. And I think that's how I got in. And, you know, I like dropped to the floor. I was the first one in, and like exhausted, weary, you know, probably feverish. Hadn't eaten for several days because I got poisoned by, you know, stinging insects and stuff like this. And just, you know, I like just caught glimpses of what was here and crawled to that font, the that kind of pond filled with water, and was just like on my stomach, could barely able to stand, just kind of like couldn't even cup my hands really, was just sort of pressing water into my mouth when a boot just put itself on the back of my head and just pushed my head down, and didn't even have to work that hard. I never saw who it was, whether it was one of my companions or someone who was in the cathedral when we arrived, and just held me under there. And, just with a burble and a few bubbles, then I was still. And I think I'm still lying there, kind of like at the edge of that pond with my face in like literally just enough water to drown me, right? Like it's just the edge of my eyes, which have probably been, but like the fish have been at them, I suppose. But
I was going to say, yes, it has not been more than a few hours since your death, when your spirit, when your spirit manifests. What form does your spirit take?
My spirit takes the form of a thick, damp, wet fog. And it, like, when it moves, it sounds like it like squelches, and it's the noise of like wet rags slapping against things if like it passes against a tree and stuff like this. And wherever I pass, I leave just like a kind of like cold trail of, kind of like little puddles of standing water behind me as I move through the forest.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Jim. Elizabeth, same questions to you. What was your final act in this place, and how did you die?
My character's name is Ondine. She was told that a rare plant was growing in this forest, and she wanted to go collect it for a special concoction brew that she had, and an idea to create, one that may have given her powers to be able to speak with woodland creatures, with the animals. And she was following a path, an overgrown, planted path. Wasn't clear where it curved or where it went straight. And she was given directions that she paid a tidy sum for, but they were incorrect, and led her to a shadowy grove where she was attacked suddenly and lost her life.
You're muted, Mike.
You're on mute, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you. In what form does your spirit manifest?
She is one of those spirits that you see that is shimmering and ethereal, but it's the source of the shimmer and light is threads. It's all silver thread. She's made up of thread and maybe an herb here or there, or something like a cinnamon stick bark. But there's some kind of then herbal smell to these threads that is noticeable by those of us who do possess the sense of smell.
Very cool. So as the three of you are aware of each other's presence in this place, I think the adventure assumes that you were a party of treasure hunters that were coming to this place. It isn't necessary, but you've all ended up here. So as you manifest and you recognize each other, but your memories of your past are dim and they're foggy. You don't have a clear sense of. You only have like flashes of your memories of your former self. You just know that you would come here seeking something, and now that you are here, you also sense other presence. You sense that there are other spirits in this place, spirits that do not wish you well. These spirits seek to claim your flickering flame. And as you're still gathering your sense of place, these spirits like are showing you your last moments of life again and again and again. What do you do to break this what do you do to break this spell that these spirits seem to be doing to you by making you relive your final horrific moments over and over again? Let's go in clockwise order as I have you. I'm sorry, let's go in anti-clockwise order of how I have you on my gallery view. So Jim, I'm going to throw that question to you.
Yeah, so what I'm experiencing is my face being shoved into that water again and again and again. And I realize that it is my efforts to pull my head out and take a breath. That's why I died, is because I was trying to, I was rejecting the cathedral, right? It was like they were trying to hold me down there. And what I realized is what I need to do is to just let them push me and slip all the way in and just dive right into that font and go down to the very bottom of it. And if it's filled with water, that means the water has to come in somehow, and just follow that route out. Just, and just kind of go with the water instead of trying to resist and push my head back out to just dive deeper in.
Okay. I think that's going to call for a risk roll.
Sure, sounds that way to me.
So, looking at the rules, take a light die if you have a memory. If you have a memory, or if you have a skill that's related to the task. I think I said memories in there, but your doom counts.
Yes, and this is very much my doom. My doom means that I'm skilled in depths.
Yes. So
I'm
you may
just diving right in. Yes. Yep.
So yes, definitely take a light die.
Just one sec here.
No problem.
Oh, I got to put my occupation in there. I'll just put my, since it doesn't work quite the same way as, there we go. All right, cool. So I've got one light die, right?
You have one light die from having a skill. Are you uttering a desperate prayer?
Oh, I'm absolutely uttering a desperate prayer. I absolutely am uttering a desperate prayer. So let me just make sure I know desperate prayers. Oh, the prayer to the gods for help. Because you're now a spirit, when you utter a desperate prayer, you can never know who or what might answer you. And my desperate prayer is, you've given me this second chance to finally see you. Don't abandon me now. I'm so close. so close. I don't care about any of the riches here. I just want to look upon the face of, who made this place. So that is my desperate prayer, is that,
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
This gives the GM and the other players an opportunity to offer, basically offers like some entity that is going to offer assistance to this, but at a price. So let me think about this. I'm going to say that you call out a desperate prayer and you sense a presence. You're under the water, and the just check one other thing here quickly. You hear a voice respond, and you just in your mind you get an image of this this immense unknowable fish thing, and it offers you, I will help you escape, but you must I will help you escape if you leave some of yourself to guard this place to prevent others from entering. And that's an offer. Other players can offer something. And sky's the limit, really. You're constrained that you are a disembodied spirit. You can, we can say in fiction that you can still manipulate, your ghosts, and ghosts occasionally move things around. So, you can manipulate the physical world.
So just so I understand, in regular trophy, we all present devil's bargains, but they're just kind of like the world offering things.
Yep.
Is this them offering stuff to me as spirits themselves, or is this doing like another version of what you offered me?
Yeah, I think from my read, we're proposing entities that are bargaining.
Got it. Cool.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
I was going to say I wasn't quite sure what you were asking, but I think Leah answered. I think Leah
Yes.
answered my question.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're proposing other entities that are offering you aid in exchange for something.
Got it. Cool.
Which does work a little different than a devil's bargain. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go on.
I was going to become an entity offering aid. All right, you hear what could be described as a loud croak coming from a bullfrog, and the voice says, I will give you extra capacity for air in your lungs, but you must bring back the largest, sturdiest lotus leaf that you can find in this pond across the forest as an offering to the benevolent bullfrog.
All right, and as a last offer to consider, on that enormous fish creature, as you look at it, you thought that one of its eyes was just kind of sickled over with blindness or cataracts, but it's a living pearl. And you hear it speak to you in your head, and it says, ignore my mediocre host. Simply swap one of your eyes with me and carry me to be where I may be planted in the forest. And I will escort you through safely and cloak you in this. It's like a frustrated voice in your head, this inadequate habitation scales to defend you as armor.
Oh, man.
was just gonna say, Leah, that's so much that's so cooler than what I was offering. But it's up to Jim.
You know what though? It helps to go last because then you can kind of build on what other people built. So that's
I wouldn't have had a living pearl if I hadn't
exactly. That's a thing. Oh man. I'm a lonely boy. I ain't got a home. I ain't got a daughter. I ain't got no one. So I'm gonna go with the frog, with the lonely frog, and because I don't have to give the frog anything right now. I just have to promise that I'll bring something back, and I will accept that offer of the frog for that extra breath to in exchange for bringing that lotus leaf back. We're sending someone with a lotus leaf. I don't know. Who knows what the future will hold? But I will gladly pay the frog Tuesday for a hamburger today, is what I'm saying. So.
Okay, you have 2 light dice. I don't think I'm going to require you to add a dark die. Are you willing to risk your essence? I mean, I would probably say no. Roll your 2 light dice, and if you don't like the result, then add the dark die and re-roll.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm gonna do.
So are you?
Yes.
So are you in the?
I'm gonna go ahead and just roll with 2 light dice. Yep. I'm in the program here.
Awesome.
So let me roll. Boom. I got a 4 on my light die.
Are we in this? Are we in the same table?
Maybe. Oh, maybe not. I might be in the wrong room. That would be silly of me. I went all the way through it. Do you have? Is the link in the?
The link is on. It's both in the Safety and Resources tab. It's also on the top of the Character tab.
Cool. Give me 2 seconds here and just. You know what? I was in the room that I opened to test Roll With Me to make sure it was working on my computer. I think is what was going on. So. Oh, cool. But it remembered my character. So that's nice. Oh, no, that's not my character. That's Leah's character. Try this again. There we go. For everybody watching or listening at home, this is the exciting stuff. This is why.
Yay! Tech problems. What everyone wants to hear on an audio recording.
Online gaming. There's no substitute for it. Except no substitutes. All right. So this is me. I am Darzal. Enter the forest. Luckily, I do remember all of my other stuff. So there we go.
Ah, yes, we see you now. At least I see you now.
So 2 light dice. Boom.
Let's do 2. That looks like awesome.
I got a 5.
So that looks like a 5.
It does.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me what the result is, and then I'll decide whether I want to add and reroll.
Got it. So we'll tell you what the we'll tell you what the consequence is, and the complication is Here's the complication here. I'm going to say the complication is that the other 2 spirits that offered you aid are offended that you didn't take it. How that will manifest, we're not sure, but they're taking offense at you. They're taking offense that you did not accept their aid and you deigned to accept the bullfrog's aid.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm happy to make enemies here. I'm not here to make friends. So yeah, so that works for me. I'll accept that.
Okay. You succeed. I'm just going to keep that as a store. I'm going to keep that as a plot complication for possible futures.
Elizabeth, how exactly does the bullfrog put that breath into me?
Well, you have to kiss the frog.
There we go. That's perfect.
Get the breath.
Awesome. Excellent.
It's your favorite fairy
yes.
tale come to life.
Bubbles come up and stuff, and and I
Yeah.
I slew us through the water.
With the light.
Yeah, I slew us through the water through an opening that be much too small for a regular person to swim through, and come up, break the water just outside the cathedral, probably something like that.
Fantastic. So I think the next, so I think we're going to shine the spotlight on Ondine. So Ondine, as we've established these, Undine, excuse me. So as these malevolent spirits that inhabit the cathedral are, showing you your death over and over again. What do you do to so how are you breaking out of this enchantment, reverie? How are you breaking away from the influence of these spirits?
As I am in that constant reliving of my last moments, I glance to the center of the area that I'm in, the grove, and see one of the woodland creatures that I was hoping to gain the power to speak with. And I think this is my chance to break free, break out of this repeated pattern. If I could just make it over to the creature.
Okay, I think this is, and as we did with Dorazel, I think this is going to be a risk roll. So let us assemble a pool of dice. Do you have memories? Okay. Or it shouldn't be memories. That should be. I'm going to change that here. Do you have a skill that is related to the task?
Okay, I'm going to stretch devotion and say that it's a devotion to my initial reason to come into the forest.
I think that totally works. So you have a light die. Are you calling out a desperate prayer?
Yes, I will.
Okay, what is your desperate prayer? And then the three of us can come up with possible things that have answered it.
O ye gods, grant me a gentle guide to deliver me from this torment and never-ending cycle of death.
I think you hear. Oh yeah, Mike, do you go first? Or does it matter?
No. Go on.
Just a rasping, buzzing voice, that says, there is no escape from the cycle of death. All things die, but there is a hierarchy to death. Pledge me your service for, and they, think about what's fair to offer you, an hour of every day at a time of my choosing, to bring other souls into death, past whatever feeble protections they seek to bar my way, and I will spare you for now.
Interesting.
You hear the wind blowing through the cathedral, and the blowing wind like the wind itself takes on a voice. And it says, yes, there is no escape from death, but I will help you. I will help you. I will help you on the condition that you assist me with a task. I need to I need something I need something removed from the roof of this cathedral.
All right, and you are there casting about, and there's a little bit of motion. You catch a gleam in front of your eye, and you realize that a perfectly jade green, very kind of, slender, waspish spider has descended on a single strand of web down in front of you. And oh, you know what? Let me just actually real quick. Okay, all right. Sorry, I remembered that is on our list of lines and veils, but nobody has checked off because spiders can creep people out sometimes. But so I just wanted to do a quick check. But and it descends and it hangs there in front of you, and it says, "I cannot help but notice how beautiful the webs that make you up are. They're far sturdier and far more alluring than any sort of gossamer whimsy that I could manage to spin on my own. I know this forest well. I've walked among the treetops, been carried along by animals. I could guide you out for nothing more than you allow me to make the strands of yourself my web. I will catch anything that I will feed upon anything that catches itself in there, and we can leave this place together. And once you've emerged, then simply let me go, and we needn't be together forever."
Okay. And now I select the, an offer.
So yes, you've got 2 light dice. Again, I don't think I'm going to require a dark die here. So go ahead and roll 2 light dice on your risk roll.
I didn't say which offer I accepted.
Oh yeah. That's true. You did not say.
I did accept. I'm rejecting an eternity of servitude to some unknown harbinger of death. No, thank you. 5 minutes of your time for an hour, forever of mine. No. The spider, that's a thread too far for me. You cannot make me into your walking web. No, thank you. Hi, these deals. I guess I will accept the most mysterious of deals to procure something from the roof. There's no follow-up questions, I guess, when you're dealing with a superior entity. All right. I'll make the bargain. All of that for an extra die.
All that for an extra die, yes.
Okay.
So go ahead and roll 2 light dice.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. 11.
Yeah. Well, you're looking at the highest individual die. So in this case, it's a 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're looking at the highest. Yeah, with this dice pool, when we assemble the dice pool, we're looking at the highest individual die roll, and in this case, it's a 6. So that's as good as it gets.
Yes.
So yeah, this totally works. Go ahead and especially with the assistance of this windy spirit, you're able to break free of this. You're able to break out of the reverie of this this malevolent spirit, and so why don't you go ahead and tell us how you do that?
Well, the wind catches a hold of my threads, and like a sail, I shoot forward out of the grasp of the malevolent dark spirit, and I am sort of wobbling and being plunged towards the little bunny there in the clearing, and collapse on top of the bunny.
Okay, you've managed to find your way out of the cathedral. You're outside. Okay.
And do I increase my hope by 1?
Oh yes. You increase your hope by 1 for rolling a 6. That is a mechanic I'm on from. That is a mechanic that is unique to. That's a mechanic that's unique to Candlelight, and that's one I had forgotten.
Okay. That
All
means
right.
I'm a little happier, a little lighter as a spirit. Okay.
Yeah, you get to note how your appearance changes if you want.
Oh,
You don't have to, but you certainly may.
the back of my being, where I was pushed by the windy spirit, some of the threads in the center have come together in a tighter, more knit pattern. The wind isn't blowing through me quite as easily.
Nice. Okay. Zephyr. Again, these malevolent spirits in the cathedral are making you relive your last moment over and over and over on a on like a 10-second loop. What do you do to break out of their hold?
I think I stick to what I was doing when I died, but I realized I need something stronger. So instead of, sticks and yarn, I kind of reach my spectral sticky fingers into the bodies of the fallen adventurers by me. And instead of assembling my ritual, protection from sticks and yarn, I'm doing it from bones and intestines.
I love that. So you're doing. So you're using.
The least they can do is defend me now.
Got it. So you're going for necromancy. Awesome. All right. Do you have a skill that would assist you in this?
I think my artisan crafting skill works here.
I will buy that. I'm just gonna say that because you're using necromancy, I'm going to require you to include a dark die in this roll.
That seems eminently
because doing this, it sounds like you are indeed risking your light by embracing the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Are you calling out a desperate prayer?
So just to check, I start with the baseline is 0 die, and then you add 1 if you have a skill, or 1 die and then you add 1 if you have a skill.
You start with no light dice. You get if you don't have a skill. The only way you can get a light die is by calling for a desperate prayer.
What a world! All right.
That is trophy itself is a drift of Cthulhu Dark, and that's a drift of Cthulhu Dark, because in Cthulhu Dark you do start with 1 die.
To shake things up a little, I think instead I'm going to add a flashback and 1 other dark die.
Oh, you want to do a flashback? Okay.
We haven't done one yet. I'd love to.
We have not done a flashback. Okay, so let's pull up those rules. So with a flashback, that's sort of so with a flashback, you're looking back toward your life to attempt to in an attempt to guide you in the present. So and that's, so flashbacks are, so flashbacks are sort of, so a flashback roll is sort of a risk roll. So that's, flashbacks are sort of like the information gathering. So I'm not sure if that really applies here. So flashbacks are sort of like the information gathering roll.
Okay. Yeah. So I was looking
That's
at
how,
what added dice, and it said if you're enacting a dirge or a flashback, but it sounds like a flashback triggers a different roll instead of the risk roll in some ways.
correct. Yeah. Well, it's, I separated them out because in the rule book it was ambiguous if the flashback, because it's in some places it said it was a risk roll, but in other ways it said it was different from a risk roll. So I kind of separated it out into a separate thing. So the flashback does seem to be the information gathering role where you're looking back to try to get a more concrete. You're trying to get more concrete memories of what happened. Also, flashbacks allow you to involve the other characters. So I don't think a flashback's really going to apply here.
That makes sense. Well, then to try something
However,
else,
you could sing a dirge.
that's what I was going to say, right? Like, I think, in order to repel these spirits, I build my disgusting little ritual object. I'm going to pay attention to, what feels like the connection between them and us. I'm following my intuition that these spirits might be not so different from us. And leading into almost, it's like a net I'm weaving, right? Like a sense of empathy, a sense of connection. My goal is to see a little of how these spirits came to be trapped here, entangling others.
So it looks like the dirge you selected was called Thread, follow the path of someone who came here before. So I totally see how that would apply.
Yeah. And my goal is to like create a connection between us and then channel it right into my basically shield here to stick them to it.
Okay. Yeah, I like this. It's stretching what dirges are a little bit, but I like it. So so it sounds like you're going to be rolling with.
I have one last question about how skills work here. If the way I'm using the dirge is essentially like reaching out to them in empathy and then using that to screw them, like how are we alike? Actually, like I'm leaving and you're not. Can I bring in my skill at rival, skilled in betrayal?
You can only regardless of how many skills you have, that only gets you one light die.
So you can't. All right, then it's just there for flavor as a thing that I do.
Exactly. So it sounds like you're going to be rolling one light, two dark.
Excellent. The kind of healthy decision that led me here in the first place. Here we go. All right.
Okay.
A high die.
3 is the high die. So, and also the high die is a dark die, which means you cannot add another dark die and re-roll. Okay, so this doesn't go so well. We forgot to. I neglected to do an important part of Rooted in Trophy, and it's something I regularly forgot to do, which is before we roll, we should have set the stakes of failure. So because I didn't, I think I'm just going to go back to GM 101 and just kind of tell you what happens. Oh, good. I was going to say, so first of all, your despair increases. So first of all, your despair increases because a 3 is higher than your current despair.
But I do get to add a new dirge that I'm sure will not totally fail me like this one just did.
Oh yeah. I mean, dirges, they're great. They never get you into trouble. I am going to say that I'm going to say that this partially works, but you break out of this reverie. You conjure, you pull out the intestines and a bone out of because you were by your own body. You pulled that out of your own body. And just seeing what you've done to yourself, that really drives home the fact that you are indeed dead. and that these spirits wish to trap you here. You are no longer, this spirit is no longer like causing you to relive that last moment. And you see a way out. This your magic did work. You see a way out that you could follow, but you can't follow it because this spirit has manifested before you and is fixing you with a malevolent gaze that is rooting you to the spot. And we'll get back to that in a moment because it is a few minutes after the hour. Let's call our second break. Given that we haven't gotten too far, is 5 minutes okay, or would people prefer 10?
I think why don't we split the difference and come back a quarter after?
That
works.
Good.
Let's come back a quarter after. And we're back. So looking at the time, we've only got about 40 minutes play left. So we're not going to get to the end of. We haven't even finished the first of 5 gates. We're certainly not going to get to the end. So I'm thinking maybe we'll get through this gate. Resolve this scene. Maybe start the next one, and then basically we'll go until I think we'll go until we can get to like a reasonable pause point. Then at the end, maybe we'll do a little. If we have time, we'll do a little stars and wishes exercise debrief at the end. I'm really liking these characters. I'm really interested in how it's going. I wish we had another hour to play. Anyway, when we last so Zephyr is being fixed in place by the gaze of this spirit, and we'll come back to that. Meanwhile, outside of the cathedral, Darazal and Undine, you are both now outside the cathedral in a mangrove forest. So there's there's standing water, big trees are growing up. There's roots. There's kind of a soggy path that makes its way through, such that you're not actually wading through knee-deep water. But this is not well. If you were corporeal, this is not the kind of place you would, this is not the place. This is the kind of place where you'd kind of want to be wearing waders, not boots.
Or be made of water.
Or be made of water. Or be a duck.
When in doubt.
So yeah. I'm going to say the two of you are outside, and Undine, you do have this.
Undine.
Undine. I keep doing Undine. I'm sorry.
Like a mermaid, Undine.
Yeah.
So Undine, you did make a bargain with this like spirit of the air that it wants something that's on the roof of this cathedral.
Mm-hmm. Can we see the top of the cathedral from where we're standing in this murky, swampy area?
So the walls of the cathedral are basically they're made of living trees that are growing very close together, and their branches have interwoven, and it's like covered with other vegetation. So there's other plants that are growing up through it. It's basically like it's more or less like a solid wall. And these trees are tall, and it looks like there does appear to be a roof. It seems to be where the branches, the trunks of the trees kind of like interweave, and then they become actual regular trees up there. But they're mangroves, so they got roots pulling. They got roots pulling off. So I imagine the roof to be sort of like this interwoven mangrove roots. And it's covered with. There's also like a hollow tree that goes up that's almost like a bell tower. And there's something, and the windy spirit says it is in the center of the roof. You must retrieve it. I desire it.
What
Cannot
is
move
it?
I cannot move it myself. Oh, you will know it when you see it.
Could you at least describe it? A color, a shape, a size? There may be many things up there. What if I bring you an acorn and that's not the right object that you desire?
It is a ley stone. It is an enchanted ley stone. It is one of the things that, it is one of the markers of the ley lines, which is why the cathedral is here in the first place.
Ley lines.
And I desire it.
Uh, hmm. Uh, is this lace stone? Could I use? I have a couple of things I want to do. I want to try to have a flashback to my mortal life and recollect on the hymns that I know as my skill as a priest memory. Is this something that would have been sung about? Would have more idea if this is a cursed object, a blessed object, something I should steer clear of? Have I sealed my fate once again?
Okay, so the way the flashback mechanics works is you can see glimpses of your life. It seems to me to be the information gathering move of the game.
What happened here and what went wrong? What may have gone wrong? Yeah.
How did the lace stone? Oh, that's a good one too. How did the lace stone get on the roof? Seems like a strange place to keep your precious stone. Oh, unless this guy or air spirit blew it up there. Too much hot air.
So so this is like what happened here and what may have gone wrong. So and I guess this is, you need to figure out why it's up there and let's see. We are asking the table what happened here and what may have gone wrong. So it's a little. I am honest. I was going to say, I as a GM am honestly a little unsure on how on how this mechanic works. So I'm rereading the rules here.
Okay.
So well, it's I guess we'll figure it out.
I mean, on a 6 you get a hope.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good deal. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, this is totally the information gathering move, because on a 4/5 you learn stuff. So it's
Yeah, on a 6 you gain a hope and you learn something useful about the current situation.
On a light 6, you always gain hope, right? On the risk roll too.
Yes. I mean, even on a dark 6 you get a hope, but you also but if it was 6 dark, you'd also get a despair.
Oh, okay. All right.
I want to say that as I see Undine, like talking to herself or talking to someone, whatever, I have emerged sodden and dripping from, the brackish water that leads down into or whatever. Maybe it's probably like runoff from the roof that gathers and then sluices down inside or something like that. But I see her there, and she is looking up the roof, and I kind of approach and stand, I don't know, like, don't get too close, but whatever, and kind of clear my throat and it's in a like wet hacking kind of way. God, it sounds like my lungs are full of water as I do it. And I say, Undine, did you? And then I look and I realize that even though you're glowing and all this kind of stuff, that you're dead too. And I kind of pause awkwardly and I say, what do you need? When you left us before we went into the cathedral, I thought surely you knew some other way. I did not trust Zephyr, and I think I was right not to. I should have stayed with you. I'm sorry.
Well, I wish you would have stayed with me because it looks like you met such a sad fate, such a sad ending.
I remain sodden and decrepit in death, even as I was in life, and you somehow remain radiant in death, even as you were in life.
You still have that wicked tongue, though. The same one that encouraged us all to enter this forsaken place.
I forced no one.
I said encouraged.
You came because you desired things you sought
true.
something as I did.
The same.
What is it that you seek now?
I hesitate to tell you, for I may have been deceived once again. I made another terrible bargain. First, it was for the map that led to my demise. I should have never trusted that creature with one pearl eye and one ebony eye in a hooded cloak. However, now I have asked for help above, which was received, and in exchange, I am to retrieve something called a ley line stone that lies upon the cathedral roof. I have a plan. But first, I'm trying to think back to remember the beautiful hymns that I sang for inspiration and promise. If I ever sang of one of these ley line stones, if they're a blessing or a curse, I'm trying to remember.
And I am willing to face my own tragic past as well to add a dark die to her roll.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay.
Okay. So you are so we've got two dark dice. I think if you're like looking on if you're like so you're definitely getting a light die from your skill at hymns, because these are how you're trying to remember this. And you must add a dark die for having a flashback. Darazal is adding another dark die. So right now we're at we're at one light, two dark. If you are willing to call out another desperate prayer, we can get another light die.
One light, two dark worked great for me, guys.
So if you've got one light, two dark, and that's how you want to go, let's roll them and see how that guides our story.
And I'm skilled in traditions here, so I think maybe I can kind of like do a little like kind of low humming to accompany her singing, because I can't sing well, but I know the tunes, the chants that go, that are much older, the chants upon which those hymns are based that go back to before they were actually spoken words. So
I love it.
Okay. I rolled already. That was bad. I think I rolled. I don't know. The dice didn't really change, but I pressed roll.
Okay.
I think I rolled.
I think that did change. That did change.
Black 5.
Looks
yeah.
like black 5. So
yeah, it
black.
went to 5.
Okay.
Yep, black 5 is so black 5 is the result. That is the high die, so you cannot add another die and re-roll.
And both of our despair goes up by 1.
Both of your despair goes up by 1. But you do learn something interesting. Learn something from your past that might be helpful, but complicates the circumstance. Yes, you've never seen a ley stone before. You know what they are. You do recall a couple of hymns that talk about them, and ley stones are powerful magical items that amplify the power of these mystical ley lines that that crisscross and that crisscross the earth, where lines intersect. That's a place of power. The more lines that intersect at a spot, the more power there are, and these ley stones both mark those intersections of power and also amplify that power. So moving this stone is probably, I mean, this is an item of great power. It's also an item of great power that's locked to this position, and moving it may have effects. Whether those are good effects or bad effects, you're not sure, but it's definitely going to cause something to happen. That is what you learn from your flashback.
And they inherently have no good or evil intent ascribed to them. They're more like markers and amplifiers. It's the person who would be using it who would then imbue them with their own intent. Is that correct?
Exactly. These are tools that are used to amplify power.
Okay.
And the fact that one is here at an obvious place of power may be indicative of something. Who put it here? Why is it there? Was the cathedral here first and they put it there? Was this where, did the cathedral grow up around it?
Right. Unknown.
You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But you do know that moving it is going to cause something to happen. I think we've had I think let's go back inside the cathedral now that let's go back inside the cathedral. Zephyr has been fixed in position by this spirit, and it looks like Leah has stepped away for a moment.
No, I'm here. I just have my video off.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Now I see the chat. So Leah, I'm going to ask you, why don't you tell us, what do the viewers at home see? What does this spirit look like?
I think the entrapping spirit is kind of a patchwork of prizes claimed from the newly dead. So, there's a bit of cloak, a bit of hair. It's the kind of thing where it does come together surprisingly as a whole. So it takes a moment you probably shouldn't spend looking at the spirit, like discern all the different trinkets and trophies it has taken from the dead.
I love it. Very cool. So the spirit is fixing you with its gaze, as if it's looking right through you, as if it's perhaps getting a better sense of who and what you are. And the spirit says, "You are a crafty one indeed. You seem skilled at magic. You tried to protect your wards were powerful, but not quite powerful enough. We could use someone like you here. We certainly could. For there are things of immense power here. Would you like a job? It smiles in an extraordinarily, because it's this patchwork of things, it smiles, but its smile is incredibly unnerving. There are items of power here, and we could use your help in protecting them from seekers like, well, seekers like what you once were.
I am skeptical of this offer, but I'm prepared to spiel for a little bit. So I ask, what are these items and why are they worthy of such service?
I, as the GM, am going to turn that question back on you because there's a player prompt here that we didn't get to, which is, what treasures had you sought here that was worth risking your life to obtain? And you know it's here. But what was it?
I think one of the most notable things here, and I'm riffing rather than drawing from the outline, Jim, just in case you're like, I don't remember writing that.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah, okay, cool. Is that, there's, in this cathedral, there's supposed to be a reshaped saint that, was a different idol a long time ago and still contains a powerful relic, cloaked by its recarving, but the heart of it undisturbed and unaltered.
What was it called? Or I should say, what is it called?
The Heart of Arhan.
Heart of Arhan?
Yep.
The spirit is this raggedy patchwork spirit that is gazing upon you and holding you at the spot. It says, yes, the Heart of Arhan. The Heart of Arhan is here. It's not an item of legend. It is an item here. It's been, well, it is, shall we say, it is our responsibility to protect it and make sure that it does not fall into the wrong hands. You seem familiar with it. We could let you be its guardian. On the condition, of course, that you remain here for as long as it remains here.
I'd say, prove to me that it isn't merely a rumor. Show me the heart. And my plan is to lay a finger on it and somehow wield its power to get out of here. A very good plan that is not stupid at all.
You're skilled in betrayal, so what could go wrong?
I know, seriously. Yeah, I think so. I think this is going to be a risk roll to try to trick it into overplaying its hand.
Legit. I'm 100% in for that. So I'm definitely using the skill of betrayal here.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's 100% legit. So we got a light die. I think I'm going to require that you I think I'm going to require at this point, since you're dealing with a spirit of great power, I think I'm going to require a dark die.
Sounds fair. And I'm going to offer a prayer here. And what I kind of say is, glancing at so what I do is I say, Heart of Arhan, I know that you were meant to be wielded, not neglected. You've been placed here for safekeeping, but men have moved on, nearly forgotten your power, but they will never forget you. If I hold you once again, send a servant, send an acolyte, send someone else committed to restoring your glory and your name, and I will take you from this place, and the world will never forget what we will do together.
You hear a voice like inside you, and you can tell it is coming from below you. And the voice says, yes, you may. The voice says, why, yes, that is exactly what I would like you to do. You may take my heart and wield it the way I wish my heart to be wielded, for I am Arhan. I will give you the power you desire.
Other bids?
Yeah, from somewhere up in the roof, you see a like scintillation of light, and kind of runes sort of spell themselves out, almost as if they're so bright that they are glowing through the surface of the roof, like through the top. There's something up there that is glowing bright enough that you can actually see it. And those scintillations form themselves into a rune, like into words that you can understand because you're standing here in the cathedral. And it says, something. It says, Arhan alone is not enough. Free me. I will help you free him. Bring us to the world together.
Compelling. Compelling.
Elizabeth, do you have one to offer?
Okay. The font in the center of the cathedral starts bubbling, and you think it would be a melodic or mellifluous tone, but instead it's a dark, screeching, unnerving racket coming from this what looks like peaceful bubbling of water. And it says, I will baptize you in the spirit of my essence. You will have power beyond what those helpless, hopeless, mere feeble spirits promised you. Not only will you be out of this forest, but I will grant you the key to the forest. My request to you, the key to your soul.
Oh man. All right. Well, thinking through these offers, that last one, that's promising a lot. And it sounds like something I would offer someone. So I feel like
overpromise, underdeliver. Yeah.
Can't make you.
And I just want to be super obvious about the fact that this is the lay stone making this offer to you, in case it wasn't 100% clear to everybody that
it was not. So I appreciate you clarifying.
It is in fact a lay stone that is making that offer to you. Yes.
And I'm going with the lay stone. I don't know that Zephyr understands who is making the offer, but what he knows is the heart of Arhan is very powerful, and he doesn't really want to serve it. He wants to have it. So just grabbing two really powerful things means he can play them off against each other. And as always, this will end well for Zephyr.
What could possibly go wrong with this plan? Hey, you already died once. How worse can it get, right?
Let's you and it fight.
All right. So I believe that's 2 light, 1 dark.
Correct.
Let's go. My high is a 3.
High is a 3. high as a 3. If you would
Yeah.
like to add a dark die and
We're
re-rolled all 4
13
dice,
minutes from our end time. Of course, I'm adding a dark.
of course
die.
you're going to do that. Yes. So go 2 light, 2 dark.
All right.
Okay.
Tied for highest with the dark.
Tied for highest. And I believe 4 is higher than your current despair, so your despair does go up. However, this is a success. The spirit gestures toward the iron altar that's covered with lichen, and you can see glowing from within the altar. It's like you can. It's almost. I mean, you're a spirit. You've got spirit sense. You can see it through the iron. Is like within the altar. Is this golden heart-shaped stone? But when I say it is a heart-shaped stone, I don't mean it's a Valentine's heart. It's shaped like an actual human heart, and you see it glowing golden. It's also pulsating ever so slightly. And the spirit says, "Behold, it is there."
I say I must make my references and do an elaborate series of bows that brings me closer and closer until I lock my hands around it. And I think, matching my despair with that when I touch the heart, the kind of sticks that and yarn that makes me up just tightens into what is itself a heart, but it's clearly a heart that's a knotted snarl at the center of myself. And from here on out, assuming we were playing for a lot longer than we're playing, whenever my form sort of shifts, there would always be a tension in a spot where it can't shift through now at the center of my being.
So I'm going to say that you have tricked the spirit into revealing where it is, and I think it's way cool. Even if we were continuing to play beyond this point, I'd say that there's no roll necessary. I just think that's cool. You have this powerful artifact. You have the heart of Ahun. Han? What did we say? Anyway,
Arhan.
Arhan. And you've also made a promise to this ley stone that you are going to free it as well. However, alas, we are out of time. I'm really curious to see where the story would have gone. I would love to say I would love to try to reschedule. I would love to try to schedule a follow-up session. My gaming calendar is super tight right now, but maybe we can work something out. I really enjoyed this. We can see if we can. We've got 10 minutes left. So I think we're gonna end it here. With Zephyr in possession of the heart of Arhan. And I kind of like the idea that the heart of Arhan is kind of like moving into the position and becomes is hovering where Zephyr's heart would be were Zephyr alive. That's where we that's where we roll the credits.
I feel like it's a real mix of were Zephyr alive and were Zephyr just a better person, period.
Question mark. Yeah.
So I'd like to do a little debrief here. I'd like to do a little debrief exercise called Stars and Wishes, where we can call out things that we particularly liked, like role playing, etc.
Since we're going to be dropping out of character and doing that person to person, could we stop the recording here and do that privately?
100%. And we are now and we are ending the recording. Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening, everyone.